Would you like to be somebody who understands why you nor I should be ashamed to cry and show emotions? Then listen to this entire video where I explain how when you're crying, your unconscious mind is trying to tell you something, and your unconscious mind does not lie. Hence, it is speaking the clearest, the cleanest form of truth. So before we get into this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you'd like to learn more about self-development, dating, Jungian psychology, and how to reduce suffering in life. Let's get into it. So I can already warn you, this is going to be a long video because it's a super important one that needs to be explained and articulated clearly, and which is actually quite a challenge for me. I've been wanting to make this video for a while. I've taken notes and ideas on it for some time, but I've kind of been avoiding it a bit because it's still quite an unarticulated idea, and I mean it is articulated now, but it requires some work and some reflection. Okay, so I've got some notes here. Crying, I would like first to define it. It is, according to Google, it's the expression of pain, distress, or sorrow. So I was never somebody who cried a lot. That's something that needs to be straight. However, in the last few months, I've been crying a lot more frequently. Now, I don't know whether it's because I've become weaker as a person, whether it's because I've become more hurt, because when you cry, you're essentially hurt by something like that. Not exactly, but yeah. And I mean, first let me explain why I used to not cry a lot. I mean, an obvious reason would be because I'm a guy, and if you want to be masculine, you shouldn't cry according to some people. There's that sort of norm, that sort of stereotype that a man should not show his feelings or emotions or vulnerabilities. That's part of it. And I also think I didn't cry a lot because I was relatively detached from my emotions. And I always thought I was quite a reflective person and aligned with myself, but I don't think so, because I've made enormous advancements in the last few months. Alright, so something has changed. So I've been crying a lot more frequently. And I don't know if it's because I've become more emotional, if I've been hurt more, or I've simply been able to uncover what my unconscious mind feels. Something like that. Okay, so why am I crying more? That's a question. So in the last few months, there's a few factors that I need to include here and describe. So in the last few months, I have been diving into the topic of adopting and developing this perspective on the truth, and how the truth is the most important resource in life. Without the truth, you essentially begin to suffer, to put it in short. Hence, I need to find the truth about my own life and my own nature. And I can tell you, looking into concepts like God or the Bible through people like Jordan Peterson has helped a lot. They have really been catalysts for understanding my own human nature, my biological, unconscious nature. And another factor that's definitely helped, because it has helped me uncover, sort of decloud my soul, decloud my consciousness, and be sort of synchronize itself with my unconscious mind. And another thing needs to be incorporated is I do think I have been in a more emotional state recently, or the last few months, because there's a lot of uncertainty around my life, because I graduated university and now I basically don't know what to do yet next, essentially, and I tend to be a little bit neurotic, so things stress me out quite easily, small factors, and this uncertainty about what jobs to apply for, when I'm going to start working, where I will start working, what kind of work I will do, and with my YouTube channel, how I will continue that, how I will develop myself to help people reduce suffering and find meaning in life. That's just really burdening me. So I have been crying, I would say, about that also. But really what it boils down to is I have learned the value of truth and how it should be embraced, because it is what redeems humanity from declining. And that's a really profound statement, because it basically says, life is so complex, and it's essentially close to nothing which you can be certain of in life. But somehow the truth is the most valuable thing, and must be protected by all means, and how speaking the truth will enable you to get access to the best outcome given the circumstances. That's a profound idea, that the truth is essentially unnegotiable. That's really insane. So before I continue, I wrote some notes last night before going to bed, as I usually do, and on this video, and reflecting on why I've been crying more, because I thought, like, am I just this hurt? What's happening? And I don't think it is. I think I've just been able to realize or feel how I actually feel deep down, and letting it out, let it express itself. So this is what I found, what I wrote down. Now I am more unapologetic about crying. I used to care more and feel more ashamed about crying, but now I don't worry because I know that tears are more real than anything else, because they are triggered by something unconscious, and your unconscious mind does not lie. It cannot lie. Only my consciousness can lie. And I care less about others seeing me cry because it is the truth spoken from my unconscious, and I know nothing can touch the truth. I feel like I have an almighty army behind me, which makes me untouchable as long as I speak and communicate the truth, which is what I do when I cry. I know it is real and nothing can touch it because it is the most valuable thing. It's more valuable than anything else, and that is, and I really mean that, like, let me explain. There is knowledge and wisdom and truth which you can access by crying, and then reflecting on why you were crying. Because when you cry, your being is reacting to something. It is responding to something which you potentially are not aware of. And that gives you access then to knowledge about yourself. And certainty, you can be certain that it means something when you're crying. With 100% certainty, it means something. It does not. It's not a lie. It's not a fake. It's nothing misleading, and it's true, because if you, like, when you cry, you are usually involuntarily crying, unless you're acting. But usually you're not choosing to cry. It's just your body knows something that you aren't aware of, and it means to express something real, and there's something true that is causing that reaction, and you can be certain it's not a lie. And that guarantee that your reaction is truthful gives you an understanding of yourself, which you can bet on with full confidence. And if you connect that then with this idea that, well, whatever the truth is, if you speak the truth and communicate the truth and embed your knowledge in the truth, then the best thing will happen to you given the circumstances. The best outcome possible will occur given the circumstances. And that is insane. And that's why, well, if I'm crying and showing it to people, I don't care, because I know it's the most valuable thing. And I've also developed this idea that I care less about how others react to me, because if I'm behaving morally and humbly and forgivingly and lovingly, then nothing else matters. As long as I'm doing it, that's all it needs. Period. Yeah. And Fyodor Dostoevsky has an excellent quote to this, which of course makes me feel good, if I know I'm crying. He says, "Pain and suffering are always inevitable for a large intelligence and a deep heart. The really great men must, I think, have great sadness on earth." So what he's saying is, in order to grasp reality and the truth about reality as much as we can, you develop this sadness, this depth in your heart. And I feel that. I feel like the more I understand people and the tragedy of life and how difficult life is, but also beautiful at the same time, it's the combination of suffering with meaning that it makes your whole being shake violently in a positive way. And that is depth, that is intelligence, because you're basically aligning yourself to the nature of reality, the truth of reality. And there you develop this depth and intelligence, yeah. So I do think that as I've become more, let's say, emotional and more quickly, my emotions arise to my consciousness and I understand them quicker and I express them quicker because I let them manifest themselves. I actually let them manifest themselves because I'm not afraid and I can feel them better now because I understand this truth about myself. I think I am no longer suppressing myself. That's what it is. I'm no longer trying to be someone I'm not. I'm being my true self. That's it. Gotcha. I didn't think of that. It just came to my mind now. I'm essentially becoming closer to my true self. That's what it is. Yeah. And just to give you a bit of context, examples of when I cry is when I listen to music. And my favorite artist, essentially of all time, is Machine Gun Kelly, because I used to rap and I used to resonate with him a lot. And he just brought out a punk rock album, which I really dig. And there's a song on it called Lonely. And it's about how his aunt and his father died too quickly. And people, essentially the most important people in his life who supported him in his journey. And they essentially, the song goes about, they left too early and now he's lonely. And he'd give up all the fame, all his money, all the people around him just to have these people back, these most important people. And I have that too, because when I listen to that, Machine Gun Kelly, MGK, articulates the pain I have because I fear losing key people in my life. For example, my parents, when I reflect on the mortality of my parents, and also a special friend, in particular, Neek, if you're watching this, it's about a friend who I've cried about before when saying goodbye to him because I had to leave. I graduated university and left and came back to Germany from the Netherlands. I was just like bursting in tears, and because I actually thought, like, if he dies, if he's no longer there, the pain would be the heaviest pain I've ever experienced in my entire life. I think it'd be so heavy. And when MGK sings this and raps it, or sings it, he's basically formulating what I already know, what I already feel, what I fear, my pain. That's an example of when I cry. Another thing is when I journal, or specifically, when I wrote a birthday letter to my mother, thanking her for everything, and then I was crying because I realized how sometimes I'm not treating her, or I'm being sort of impulsive and impatient and a bit rude sometimes, and whereas her intentions have always been good for me, she always wants the best for me, and the fact that I treated her in certain ways really, it brings me sorrow and just losing those kind of people is just, yeah, pretty painful. And I just like feel that really quickly then, and it definitely pains me, and I don't think it's like the fear of losing these people has always been there. But now just listening to it, and and it's real. It's really real. Yeah. I think that was really it. So I'm gonna try and conclude this. So in conclusion, the reason why you shouldn't be ashamed of crying is because when you cry, you're really just expressing who you deeply are, because it's an unnegotiable emotion. It's an involuntary emotion. You're not choosing to cry necessarily. It's just happening when your body wants to express something that you're not potentially consciously even aware of, and it is something true. And the truth is the most fundamentally valuable, necessary resource for well-being in life and finding meaning and reducing unnecessary suffering. Hence, it should be nurtured and listened to because your life and humanity essentially depends on it. Yeah. So, so I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you'd like to learn more about self-development, dating, Jungian psychology, and how to reduce suffering in life. Thank you for listening.